introduce ourselves.
Everybody, it's Dante and Adrian here from Halo Defense Solutions.
Greetings.
I just want to go over a video, put out some basic rules for firearm safety and the ownership of a firearm for all of our new firearm owners out there. All right, so...
All right, yeah. So greetings, everybody. Last month, we were going into this quarantine. We had millions of new gun owners. As far as I've heard, 0 mass shootings. But we want to stay on the safe side of the curve. There's some basic stuff you need to know. You need to make sure you're learning from people who are vetted, people whose livelihood is based around firearms. All right, someone that has actually done it and does the work. Not learning from anyone. Make sure you're learning from a proper resource so they can keep you and yours safe. So we're going to go over some basic stuff regarding that and firearm safety and the mindset around it. So what did you want to share first?
So first, let's talk about, well, you touched on experience. So let's expand on that a little bit more. Your experience with a firearm is a major thing. You never want to just be walking around carrying a tool that you have absolutely no idea how to operate or use, or when to operate or use that tool. As Adrian touched on, learning from people who have that experience will help you gain more experience. You should always seek out the experience. You should always seek out the training when you're learning to use a firearm, even if you own a firearm already and you bought a new firearm. You should seek out the training and experience with using that firearm, because all firearms aren't the same.
Yeah.
So there may be a difference in the trigger, there may be a difference in the sights, there may be a difference in the grip, whatever it is. Something has changed in this new firearm that you need to seek out more experience and training in before carrying it on a regular basis.
Yeah, and learning from someone who has put in the time and has lived with this tool, weapon, and this training saves you from making certain mistakes so that you don't get caught up. So you want to learn from people who have put in the time. So we're going to go over a few basic things. You need to consider your experience level, your training, and comfortability with firearms. So that goes to what type of firearm you get. You get a Mossberg Shockwave. Do you know how to shoot a Mossberg Shockwave? Because a Mossberg Shockwave is a completely different skill set that's not necessarily transferable like other different types of firearms. Any tool you get, you have to practice with. It's just that simple. You have to practice and know your competency. If you're uncomfortable with firearms, are you going to even really use it now that you have one? Are you capable of using it? Have you trained and gotten the mindset for it and drilled it so it's second nature? You need to be training. What was anything else you want to add on for the parents?
I know that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Okay.
Training will give you the experience you need to operate this tool. That's really just the bottom line of it.
Okay. You want to go to the next one?
I think what you were alluding to as a responsibility, tying in with experience. We were talking about knowing when you can and can't use that tool, and how you can and can't use that tool. Ties a lot into responsibility, because a
firearm is a responsibility.
Right. It's a responsibility. It's your responsibility. It's your responsibility to know how to use it, to keep it clean and make sure it's functional. It's your responsibility.
Know the legality around it.
Right. To know the legality of it, and the mindset that you were talking about. Are you prepared to take on that responsibility?
Or what happens when you bring that gun out?
Right. Of owning or using the firearm.
As you say, when you bring out a gun.
Right.
What?
Once you pull a firearm, you've now opened a door that cannot be closed. Whether you use it or not, whether you pull the trigger or not,
once it's present, you're in a different side of legality, morality, spirituality.
Right.
It's a threshold. So you have to make sure you are aware of when and why you cross that threshold, because there can't be any doubt.
Yeah, you have to be able to justify and articulate everything that you've done, everything that's happened leading up to that point, and everything that's happened after that point. You have to be able to justify and articulate everything. Otherwise, you're in the wrong.
All right.
That's how they're going to look at it.
Next thing is need. Why do you have a firearm? Are you on here getting a firearm for the gram? You're getting a firearm because you're scared, you don't know what else to do. You're getting a firearm because you have been threatened. You know that there's violence ready and willing to hurt you. You need to consider what your need is. All these needs have different responses and different things you have to prepare for. If you're getting it just because you're scared and you don't know what to do, that's problematic. You need to know, once again, going back to experience and responsibility, are you able to use a firearm now that you have it? If you have a firearm you can't use, it's going to be used against you. If you have a firearm and you don't need it, you're just getting it just because you want to get one. All right, cool. You're getting a firearm because you have active threats around you. Someone has threatened you. Someone has broken into your home before. Maybe you have a spouse and she's like very verbally and now she's escalating to a physical level and you feel you have to get a firearm to protect yourself. If you have that need, you need to know exactly what it is and train towards that. So if you're getting a firearm for personal protection and you go to the range and you're just shooting targets, that's not going to prepare you necessarily as a training course for personal protection. You see the difference?
Right.
Shooting targets, personal protection, whole different ball game. Be careful with stuff when it says tactical, tactical, tactical. You're not practicing to be a member of a SWAT team or a special response team, nothing like that. You need it for your specific situations. So we're going to go over a few basic rules. As with everything, these depend on your situation in terms of like even like storage of firearms. If I have children that are trained for firearms and we practice and we know the rules and around it, we are going to interact with firearms differently than someone that has young children that they don't understand firearms and they have no training around it. So right now we're going to go over 4 basic rules. The first one is treat every firearm as if it's loaded. When you get a firearm, you got to check and see the status of it. Right now you can see this action and slide is open here. There's no magazine here. There's no magazine in the room. There's no ammunition in the room. Visually and physically inspect, and if you have someone nearby, have them do the same thing.
So as you said, do the same thing. I'm just going to look inside the barrel, stick my finger in, make sure there's nothing in there to make sure, as you can see, that the firearm is empty.
All right, so now this empty is safe. I can chamber it. I can rack the slide there. And now we can do some different manipulations. As you see, my finger is on this slide, underneath it, on the frame, underneath the slide. This is called indexing. Second rule, finger never goes on the trigger until you are ready to shoot. You don't say, oh, it's unloaded, I'm just practicing. Don't do none of those dumb gram,
That is nothing you ever want to get comfortable with. You never want to get comfortable with putting your finger on the trigger just because you think that it's empty or just because you know it's empty. You don't want to get... Empty. Right,
or this person wouldn't hand me a loaded gun,
right,
etc., etc.
So that's how mistakes happen. That's how accidents happen.
Second rule: finger on the trigger. Next one: don't point at anything you don't want to destroy or shoot. Point it always in a safe direction. I know over here next to me is an area where there's no people. All right. If I point upstairs, I got people upstairs. I got people downstairs. You got to always know what direction you're pointing the barrel.
All right. You fingers off the trigger. Treat every firearm as if it's loaded. Know you're targeting what lies behind.
Never put your finger on the trigger till you're ready to shoot.
Right. Yeah, you said that.
Finger on the trigger.
Never operate or never work with a firearm with ammunition in the room.
Yeah.
I think that's a big rule. I think it's something that most people don't talk about. But again, it's how accidents happen. When he brought this firearm in here, he unloaded it and stored the ammunition in another room. The reason you don't want to do this is because a lot of times you'll get used to loading the firearm. So you'll put the magazine in and you'll rack the slide and everything while you were cleaning it and then forget that that's what you did because it's become routine for you. And then, an accident happens. This isn't loaded, I was cleaning it.
Yeah.
And then you pull the trigger and now you've shot yourself or someone else or, the bullet went through the wall and to the neighbor's house. So that's something you want to be careful of. Right.
Accidents come from lack of training, improper training, and complacency. Right. Don't get complacent. Don't learn from your neighbor who works part-time at Fresh Grocer. Learn from real people. So the most important rule, as we went over, is to never put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to shoot. If you remember that rule, that will save you from all the other stuff. You can make mistakes with forgetting that it's loaded or unloaded. You can make a mistake putting it in the wrong direction. But if you remember, your finger never goes on the trigger. You always index the gun unless you are ready to shoot. When you're ready to shoot, you need to know what you're shooting at. You need to know what's around it. And you need to commit to that. All right?
I want to put out one more thing. Don't move. Stay right there. Put out one more thing. As you can see, we're talking about pointing the firearm in a safe direction. And you see that I'm on Adrian's left hand side, which is where the firearm is pointing. However, I want to be clear because I don't know if you can tell in the video that the firearm is actually a foot in front of me, and it's pointed slightly to, so he's facing this way, it's pointed towards the right. So the firearm is not pointed at me, it's not coming near me. As you can see, he's indexing, his finger's not on the trigger, and the firearm is pointed out in that direction. So I wanted to be clear while we were talking about that, so people see.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, that's pretty much it. From Adrian and Dante, Hello Defense Solutions. Always remember, bring success from within. We have a free video we're going to be dropping. We're going to be doing a live stream this week coming up, and we're going to be offering an online training course for new firearm owners who want to learn a lot of good information and invest in their life and those they love. If you have any questions, hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You have anything you want to say?
No, just as always, stay trained, stay prepared, stay safe.
All right, thank you, everybody. Peace.
Peace.
Greetings. This week we'll have a live video on personal protection and unarmed. We'll also be teaching a long distance course on basic pistol. Thank you. Subscribe. Peace.